But I'm just saying those were the allegations. It wasn't just that he was seen at Cafe Milano.
And keep in mind that every one of them's been anonymous tips. No one's come forward and actually said this.
Well, Senator Tim Kaine said today that you guys did have the names of these people who have
I haven't seen the names.
Too much
they sure didn't mention the names. They said they had one person, one name that had said that. Pete has been adamant from day one that it is an outright lie. Now, if no one's willing to put their name on it and no one's willing to come forth on it, and believe me, they had plenty of time to come forth, they've all known this, then all it is a smear campaign, and that's exactly what it was.
All right, well, picture this, just the other night on national television, things sort of hit the boiling point. Republican Senator Mullen and CNN host Caitlyn got into, a really heated exchange.
In that room today, and when you said that, I guess the thought that went through my head was, if what you're saying is true and your colleagues do show up drinking to come to work and vote, which I think would maybe be concerning to those taxpayers who pay them, how is the bad behavior of a sitting senator a defense of someone who wants to run the Pentagon?
It's not. What they were saying is he was incapable of doing his job. And Caitlyn, what I was trying to get to is if you're capable of doing your job and you're able to still drink on the job or late in the evening, then don't tell me that Pete can't. And Pete had already said he's not going to drink, but they just kept hammering it. Pete is qualified to do the job. He's a combat veteran. He's 20-year combat veteran. He's been under fire. He's pulled his own friends out of a combat zone. He's had to bury his own friends that's got killed in combat. The guy has bled, he has sweat, and he has proven his ability for his love for this country. He will do what needs to be done. What's the definition of insanity? Is doing the same thing, expecting different results, and we keep recycling the same type of people as the Secretary of Defense. And where have they got us? Nowhere. President Trump is wanting to put people in the place that's going to shake things up and do things different. And
seriously, it was intense. Senator Mullen was just defending Secretary Pete, but not just with words. He was throwing around the kind of powerful points that you just can't ignore. Caitlyn, though, well, she was pushing back hard. This wasn't your usual debate, folks. It was like a full-on verbal clash. You know what? You don't want to miss these kinds of moments. They're totally unforgettable. So, if you value getting fiery insights like these, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me out. And hey, let's see if we can hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of February. Thanks a bunch for the support. So, right after that explosive back and forth on TV, we gotta, focus on how Senator Mullen honestly stood his ground. He wasn't just throwing accusations into the wind. He was actually making a very deliberate defense. This wasn't just about words, Mullen's out here defending Secretary Pete, who, to give credit where it's due, has quite the impressive resume. Let's break it down, shall we? Senator Mullen talked about Pete's military background. And folks, when I say background, I'm talking about a 20-year career. That's combat duty we're discussing here. Real life and death situations. And well, you don't just come away from that without learning a thing or two. Think about it. Here's a guy who's been under fire, who's pulled comrades out of danger, who's unfortunately buried friends who've fallen in battle. It's a harrowing yet undeniably powerful testimony to his character, right? This kind of experience isn't, I guess, not something you just overlook. And yet that's what some folks want to do. Just ignore it, kind of brush it aside. It's hard to believe, honestly. Now, with that backdrop, you'd think that someone with such credentials would be beyond reproach, but the talking heads seem to think otherwise, don't they? Mullen points out something crucial: hypocrisy. You see, he doesn't just throw the term around lightly.
Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then how many senators do you know have got a divorce for cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No. But it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? It is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye. And when we start talking about qualifications for if you're qualified for it, could the chairman tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense? Mr. Chairman, could you tell me what the qualifications are for the Secretary of Defense?
I'd be happy for
I'll read it
for you to do that. Yeah.
Let me read it for you because I Googled
I
it.
was getting some advice from
I
my
understand
second
that.
in command.
Yeah, but I'm just making a point because there's a lot about qualifications, and I think it's so hypocritical of senators, especially on the other side of the aisle, be talking about his qualifications, not being able to lead the secretary or be the Secretary of Defense, and yet your qualifications aren't any better.
He's calling out senators who, maybe had a bit much to drink or who've skipped the moral high ground at times. And that's really the crux of his argument. Okay, so what we have here is Mullen using this platform to spotlight this massive contradiction. You see, these political figures, who are very comfortable in their ivory towers, like to hold themselves to some high standard while conveniently forgetting their own slip-ups. Sort of like taking shots at someone else while standing in a glass house, if you get what I mean. It's outrageous, isn't it? And Mullen wasn't just talking, folks. I'll tell you what, he had facts and logic to back it up. He brought up cases of, senators showing up to vote a bit tipsy, or even those who've been caught in scandals of their own. Yet, where's the public scrutiny for them? Where's the outcry? The silence, really, is deafening. So, you ask, why the double standards? Well, to be honest, it's just politics as usual. Mullen argues this hypocritical behavior is like a stage show, a well-rehearsed play put on every time an outsider like Secretary Pete is on the scene. When questioned about Pete's qualifications, Senator Mullen deftly shifted the focus, effectively exposing these political powers that be for what they are, performative and selective in their moral outrage. You see, when Mullen asked his counterparts about the actual job qualifications for Secretary of Defense, it was a big moment. It was like a spotlight shining on the lack of transparency or even coherence in their criticism. He just kind of laid it all out there. The thing is, Pete isn't just some random pick. His military service, his commitment to his peers and to the country, they speak volumes. And let's not forget, when Trump appointed Pete, it wasn't just on a whim, and that's important here. It was about, shaking up the status quo, bringing fresh perspectives. The idea is people in these roles will bring about change, a real change. Yet detractors seem all too eager to cling to smears and rumors, and that's what's baffling, really, like this talk of drinking problems or visits to less than reputable establishments. To Senator Mullen, and even a reasonable observer, they seem like strategic distractions more than anything else. There are endless political games, and Mullen, well, he's tired of it, as I'm sure many of us are too. Mullen's expose doesn't just end with the critiques, though. Nah, he takes it further. He questions why the political landscape is so uneven. When someone comes from a different viewpoint, especially a conservative one, critics suddenly find their moral compass. It's like, where was that when some scandal-plagued members of Congress conveniently slid by without so much as a slap on the wrist? There's this term, martyrs, which fits like a glove here. Mullen is suggesting that there are those in power who get to play victim, who leverage past circumstances for sympathy. There's even an effort to absolve them of accountability. It's as if the rules change depending on who's in play, which is, not exactly fair, At the end of the day, it's infuriating to see these double standards at work. The same folks who paint themselves as paragons of virtue are swift to throw stones, forgetting they too have feet of clay. And isn't it ironic when it comes to their policies, they're all about so-called progressive, loosening standards and all that. Yet when it suits them, they become gatekeepers of morality. It kind of makes it hard to see where they stand, doesn't it? What Mullen did, by defending Secretary Pete and by extension calling out these hypocrisies, well, it throws this whole charade into the spotlight. People need to wake up to what's really happening. The dynamics at play are just, sort of stunning. So, folks, where do you stand on this? Do you agree with Mullen's line of thought, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments what part of this whole debacle stood out to you the most. Thank you for joining the conversation.